Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second session with Aquarius Reef Base. My name is Joe Gorowski. I'm the founder of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and I'm very excited to be partnering with Aquarius Reef Base to be bringing these hangouts to classrooms all over North America. We are experiencing a little bit of difficulty today. There was some weather and a little something technical going on at the habitat, so with any luck they will join in partway through, but we have the stellar education team of Eileen and Kathy who are at the watch desk, and they have a presentation ready to go, and they're more than able to answer your questions about the reef base. So let me give a shout out to our class joining us today. We've got Mr. Ruffin's class, Lincoln K-8 from Rochester, Minnesota. Let me turn your mic on. You guys give a shout out. All right, and our second group who are joining us, the Museum of Discovery and Science, are watching along, and they're going to email some questions as the hangout proceeds. So with no further ado, we've got Kathy and Eileen, and they're going to take over. They have an excellent presentation to get us started.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, boys and girls, for joining us today. We are really sorry that we are having technical difficulties. I'm hoping that the teachers under the sea will be able to pop in and pay us a visit from 60 feet beneath the ocean surface. But as you can imagine, when you're dealing with the world's only underwater research lab, you do have technical difficulties from time to time. So we're pretty used to working under pressure here. So we've got our presentation ready to go. We do have some video and stuff, so if we can't take you live to Aquarius, at least we can take you by way of this video. And as Joe mentioned, the next time that we do offer these live links with aquanauts down in Aquarius, you guys will have first priority, okay?
Alrighty. So, hi, my name is Kathy. I'm education coordinator with Eileen, who's my director and mentor. But we're really excited to have you. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get started.
So we are coming to you guys live from the shore-based facility. So Aquarius, it's known as the FIU Medina Aquarius program. So we do have a shore-based facility as well as the reef-based facility, which is located underwater. So Kathy and I are essentially here at mission control, and we're going to pick up the computer a little bit. Just be careful. And this is our mission control, just like NASA has their mission control when they send rockets up into space. We've got mission control down here when we send folks down into inner space, which is like what we call it, Aquarius. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and share our screen, and we're going to run through a pretty short presentation, but hopefully it will give you a nice overview about our program, what we're about, and why we love it so much. We'll save some questions and time for discussion at the end, okay? Sound good with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so we'll get going. So
all right, so I'm going to share the screen now. Okay.
All right. So what we do is relatively simple. We live and we work beneath the sea. While the technology is amazing, Kathy and I and the rest of the staff are firmly committed to why we do it.
So Aquarius, again, it's the world's only underwater laboratory. It's here you can see in the title that it's also called the world's inner space station. Aquarius is the closest thing that an astronaut has to going to space on Earth. So we train NASA astronauts that are listed to go to space.
All right, so for the next few minutes, we want to take you guys on an incredible journey, a place where science fiction is really science reality.
A place where explorers, young and old, are pushing the boundaries and challenging conventional thinking.
Of it cannot be done. All right. It's a place where man and machine interact seamlessly in an extreme environment.
And pioneers are learning how to sample an asteroid or even how to colonize Mars.
It's a place where sensors are unlocking the mysteries of a 4 billion-year-old planet so that we can gain some insight on how man is altering the climate in mere geological seconds.
It's a place where expeditionary medicine is tested in the most trying conditions and where we can learn how to remotely give a surgery. So, for example, here we have a surgery that happened at Aquarius on a dummy. So I want you to imagine you are an astronaut in space, but suddenly you get appendicitis and you need to have your appendix removed ASAP. What do? Well, they're actually going to use robotics to do a surgery on you that is controlled by a surgeon on Earth. So we actually did a surgery on a dummy at Aquarius, and it was successful. So it's pretty exciting what we do. It's pretty mind-blowing, really.
And really the importance of this is that this type of technology can be applied to remote and impoverished regions of the world. So, places where there is no medical attention or medical facilities, perhaps these remote surgeries and medical procedures can be accomplished. So we're pretty much a training ground for this type of medicine. All right, so Aquarius is also a place where the human condition is studied to determine how man reacts to stress, sleep deprivation, confinement, isolation, super long work hours.
So, if you are an astronaut, you may be working, not only very long hours, you may be working, without being able to have your full 8 hours of sleep. So NASA needs to know, how are our astronauts going to be able to deal with these kinds of stresses? So these are all things that they practice before going to space while they're in Aquarius so that they can have some first-hand experience.
So in essence, it is a facility where we study marine science, we study medicine, we study physiology or biomedical sciences. So it really is multidisciplinary in that sense. It's also a laboratory where scientists gather data to help policymakers manage natural resources fairly and cost-effectively, and gives us as consumers the necessary information to live more sustainably.
So right now we're dealing with the effects of climate change. Climate change has caused us to lose 50% of our coral reefs due to bleaching. Basically, because of the carbon pollution from cars, power plants, things like that, our oceans are becoming more acidic, kind of like lemonade. Coral is an animal, and this animal can't live in that acidic environment, and so it dies. As you can see in that picture, it turns white. This is happening all over the world, and if you ever get the opportunity to go diving on a coral reef, unfortunately, you will probably see coral bleaching. But that's why what we do at Aquarius is so important, because we're looking for solutions and how to support the resiliency of coral reefs. Nature is resilient, but it's not infinitely resilient. So we need to do what we can to protect it. And so that's one reason why we do is so important.
All right, this is also a place where teachers come to get energized, artists inspired, and the next generation motivated to change the world.
So we don't know if one of you guys sitting in your classrooms is going to be the next person who designs the underwater habitats of the future. Aquarius is currently the only underwater laboratory in the world, the only place where people can live underwater to study and understand our oceans. That's kind of a problem that it's the only one, and so hopefully we're motivating and inspiring the future generations of ocean exploration, and maybe one day you guys will build the next version of Aquarius, and the dream of living underwater will not die with Aquarius.
And Aquarius is also a place where creativity and a sense of exploration are primary job requirements, where everyday people like you and me can use our talents and energy and really help us shape the future so that we can actually preserve our oceans and this planet. Welcome to Aquarius.
Whoop.
Out. Synchronize your watches if you care to. Verify your computers. Make sure they're on. Set the air. Good battery. Read both regulators, primary and secondary.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are. This is some different views of Aquarius as well as where it's located. So Aquarius is a remote saturation diving laboratory. It's located 63 feet below the ocean surface, just about 25 miles southeast of where Kathy and I are sitting right now at Mission Control. Aquarius is about the size of a school bus. It's about 43 feet long and 9 feet in diameter and consists of a wet porch where divers enter and exit the habitat, which is what we lovingly call it. It also has two locks that can be independently pressurized, the entry lock and the main lock. The main lock is the living area and contains a galley and bunks for 6. A galley is in essence a kitchen, a small kitchen where the aquanauts are able to eat and work. Okay, we'll show you that video in 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, give me a minute, folks. Just having some technical difficulties.
So Aquarius houses 6 aquanauts. Normally, we will have 2 technicians from FIU's team. They're the people who know how the habitat runs. They're there in case of any type of emergency. They know how to control the habitat and basically having them keeps any mission we have safe. And so we'll have... Whoops.
Oh, we're getting a call.
We're getting a call from Aquarius. Sorry, guys. Let me... Sorry, just a minute. Okay, so looks like we're getting a call from Aquarius right now. Hopefully we will be able to connect immediately and you guys will get the opportunity to talk to the teachers down at Aquarius. But for now, I'm going to keep talking about through the presentation. So how do you get air into Aquarius? How do you get electricity, internet, while you're living underwater? Well, the way it works is through our life support buoy. As you can see there, our life support buoy is a big buoy on the surface. It has air compressors and generators that basically keep the habitat running. It's their life support. So the life support buoy is connected through an umbilical cord to the habitat. And, you know, without that umbilical, they can't power the habitat at all. So it's pretty neat. Now I'm going to take you through this little video here. So we've got the life support buoy on the surface, and there you can see it's connected to Aquarius. But then we have these line highways that are, you can see the long ropes, and that is basically what takes the aquanauts to wherever their study site is. Sorry, it kind of takes a minute. So at the end of these line highways, we have a gazebo or a way station. That is basically where the aquanauts can take a break to rest. They can fill their scuba tanks here. It's basically a cup underwater that has air in it. So they can come up in here, eat a sandwich, take a break, talk to each other, and it kind of just gives them a place to have a little break. Whoops, sorry, guys. Let me move on to the next slide. Whoops. So now I'm going to take you guys inside of Aquarius. You're actually going to get to, you know, have a tour. The people who are giving you this tour are actually NASA astronauts who have been to space. So without further ado, let me get the video started.
Tuesday evening, we're in the habitat under the sea. That can only mean one thing: the mission has started. Let's meet the crew.
Hey there, I'm Joe Acaba. I'm a NASA astronaut and commander for Sea-Test 2.
Hey, soy Chinobuchi from JAXA. Good to be back in the Wakelet.
Kate Rubens, NASA astronaut, and I'm pretty happy to be here.
And I'm Andy from ESA, and we're really excited, all of us, to start the Sea-Test mission. And we welcome you to the Habitat Aquarius. Let's take a tour. This is the entry port with the moon pool. As you can see down here behind me, this is where we enter and exit the habitat from. This is where we store our diving equipment. This is where we have all of the air connections. And it also serves up as our shower. Next, we get to the entry lock, which serves as an airlock with the 2 slidable doors. It also has a hygiene station where we can brush our teeth. And most importantly, our comm station where we can talk to the divers who are out on EVA and with Mission Control Center topside. Stepping further into the habitat, we get to the galley where we can prepare our food. We have a small table for eating where Suichi and Kate are sitting. Hey guys. Hi. And all the electronics for controlling the habitat. And last but not least, we have our bunk room with 6 bunks for the 6 people on board Aquarius. There's not a lot of room, as you can see, but plenty for sleeping.
Alrighty guys, so you got to meet our NASA astronauts and see the inside of Aquarius. Now we're going to change gears for a minute.
So let's talk a little bit about saturation diving, and then we can go back and talk a little bit more about why NASA utilizes Aquarius. So saturation diving, what is it? So it's really a matter of simple physics and human physiology. So right now we're all saturated. More specifically, we're saturated to 1 atmosphere of pressure. So what that means is that the gas that's dissolved in your blood and in your tissues is proportional to the air pressure in the room that you're sitting. So obviously none of us are experiencing any adverse effects. We don't feel funny, we feel fine until we alter the air pressure. So what happens when we go underwater? As we increase pressure, then more gas is dissolved into our blood and our tissues. The real beauty of this process, however, is that once we reach a certain depth and stay there, our tissues become saturated, and we can stay at that depth indefinitely.
So that means that there is no technical reason that people can't live underwater. You know, normally the missions that we have at Aquarius are anywhere from 3 to 10 days or so. The longest mission we've ever had was 31 days. But we can have, you know, technically we can have missions that are even 100 days because your body becomes used to whatever pressure it's in. So if you are living underwater, your body will become used to that pressure, and then in order to go back to the surface, you have to go through a recompression, which we'll cover now.
So basically, we can safely return to the surface only by allowing this gas to slowly come out of your tissues, and also by you exhaling those gases away. Since aquanauts inside Aquarius are at about 2.5 atmospheres of pressure, this decompression process takes a very long 16 hours. And if we don't decompress, the gas inside us begins to expand, causing decompression sickness, or what some people call the bends. So what are the main advantages to saturation diving over standard scuba diving from the surface? So first, aquanauts are given the gift of time. So if you dive to a depth of about 95 feet of seawater using a tank or a scuba tank with oxygen-enriched gas, then you get about only 60 minutes to do your work over a 24-hour period. So imagine you're a marine biologist and you need to study this one fish in the coral reef. Well, I hope you get a chance to see it during that 1 hour, because chances are you probably won't be able to observe it for very long. However, when you saturation dive from Aquarius, these same divers that only had 60 minutes at 95 feet now have 540 minutes per day to do their work. So this actually translates into a 10-fold increase in productivity. So now these scientists are basically immersed for 540 minutes in the ecosystem that they're studying. So imagine what that can do in terms of making observations and collecting data. They really can do quite a bit of work in a short amount of time. Saturation diving also takes away the most dangerous part of diving, which is actually diving from the surface, jumping off a boat, going down, coming up. You know, there's so many accidents that actually happen during that time. So saturation diving really does eliminate that, because once you're inside Aquarius and around the adjacent reef, there's really no need to come up. Now, all aquanauts undergo a rigorous training program for a minimum of 5 days before they are even allowed to go into Aquarius. All of these guys are basically taught about scuba diving physiology and practice using all the diving and the safety gear before the mission begins. Okay, so before they're even allowed in, they have to go through 5 days of training. They have to go through swim tests. They have to be able to hold their breath underwater for one length of a pool. They have to be able to tread water for over 15 minutes. So you really have to be physically fit. You need a letter from your doctor stating that you are cleared to scuba dive and saturation dive. So we really take this seriously here. Aquarius was built with safety in mind, so we've got redundant systems in place. In the event that there should be an emergency, Aquarius actually has the capability to function independently from the surface for a minimum of 72 hours.
So technically it doesn't need the life support buoy. You know, if the life support buoy was to malfunction and it was no longer functioning, the habitat would be able to run alone through compressed air that we have stored apart away from the life support buoy. This, you know, these redundant systems are part of the reason that saturation diving is very safe.
Okay. All right, so the next slide talks a little bit about the value of Aquarius and our mission, and Kathy's going to tell you a little bit about that.
So here at Aquarius, what we take what we do very, very seriously. Of course, one of the most important parts of what we do in the world's only underwater laboratory involves scientific research on our coral reefs. We're in a time right now where we are losing more and more of our coral reefs every day. Why are we losing coral reefs? Well, carbon pollution and climate change, it's all changing the ocean's chemistry and making the ocean more acidic. And we at Aquarius are able to monitor our coral reefs, and we're able to see how the changes, like how these changes have been happening, and we're able to come up with solutions, hopefully, and learn about the resiliency of coral reefs. Also, we train NASA astronauts. Any astronaut that wants to go to space, you know, the only way they can really have an opportunity to learn and practice what they're going to go through in space is through working in the world's inner space station, Aquarius. Also, the research and development of undersea technology. So oftentimes during our missions, they will be testing different hardware and technology that's used for ocean exploration, like sensors, to test all kinds of stuff. And also what Eileen and I guess our favorite part about our mission is the education and outreach. We are able to communicate with classrooms all over the world from Aquarius. You know, unfortunately, we're having some difficulties today, but you never know who you're inspiring when you're even just presenting this presentation. You never know who is saying, wow, I want to live underwater. And you never know who the next Sylvia Earle or the next you know, marine architect who could design the next versions of Aquarius. You never know if they're sitting in one of your classrooms. So.
All right. So you can see in that little pie graph all the different focus of our missions that have been conducted aboard Aquarius. Just like Kathy said, most of them have been marine science, but we do quite a bit of training, quite a bit of tech development, and quite a bit of education. This year, we're actually going to be hosting the United States Navy during the month of April, and we will have opportunities for connecting with our habitat technicians during that mission. So Joe, if you're listening, I'd really like to maybe give all these groups priority to connect live with them. In July, we're also going to be hosting the NASA NEMO astronauts. So this will actually be the 20th mission that we conduct with them, and we're hoping in the fall to basically continue a study that we started this past November, impacts of sharks on coral reefs. Sorry about that. Looking at how sharks and apex predators affect the behavior and distribution of smaller fish in a coral reef ecosystem. So be on the lookout for that. There'll definitely be opportunities to connect live, hopefully, with the folks down at Aquarius. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and end the presentation right now and switch back to Kathy and I. This way we can answer any questions and chat with you all.
All right, another solid presentation. So we'll take some questions from Mr. Ruffin's class, but just a little shout out to the Museum of Science and Discovery. I know you're watching. Feel free to email me some questions or send your questions directly to the event page where you sent me the message earlier. I can make sure we get some of those questions out there. So there we go. Mr. Ruffin, your group in Minnesota, your mic is on.
All right, Lucas.
All right, well, you've been down there. What do you think is your favorite species that you've studied? And then, how did you study it? Or was there like a GoPro or something that you were watching it with? And then, what was your best discovery about it?
Wow, that's a great question. So probably my favorite mission since I've been with the program was the one we just did last November. We called it the Ecology of Fear, or Impacts of Sharks on Coral Reef Ecosystems. The cool thing about that, to be honest with you, was we were looking at sharks, which has been my favorite animal since I was born. Have you guys ever seen the movie Jaws? Well, it changed my life, and now I have the job I do because of it. The cool thing about that mission was we used baited remote underwater cameras, video cameras, to basically attract sharks. We used low-frequency sonar or sound pulses that we emitted into the water column, and we also used what was the other one? No, I think it was just that, the baited cameras, and we used sonar to attract sharks to Aquarius to actually see how many different sharks there were in the area, how big they got, and how they basically scared the smaller fish that were in the area. Much to my dismay, during a 5-day mission, we attracted 1 shark. Now, in science, you make a lot of mistakes, and you learn what not to do really fast. So we realized we probably had the wrong sonar machine, so we opted to actually buy a less expensive one, and it worked against us. The baited cameras didn't really work either, unfortunately, but what that really made me realize was that there really aren't that many sharks in our area. And that's kind of actually what we were trying to find out, you know. So the fact that there weren't any sharks in the area, that we were actually not able to attract them to Aquarius, was pretty significant, because there's no reason why sharks shouldn't be in that area. And it was obvious because the fact that these sharks are not there is actually affecting coral reefs in general. So here in the Florida Keys, if you go scuba diving, you expect to see these beautiful, amazing corals full of fish. Well, what's happening is that corals are actually bleaching, they're dying. And what's happening is that algae, a type of marine plant, is taking over these reefs. So instead of having coral reefs, now we have algae reefs. They're not as pretty, I promise you. They're not as colorful. So what we're finding is the fact that there's no sharks in the water, right? So now these smaller fish that are scared of sharks, they are fearful of sharks, and they hide in coral reefs, and they only stay in small little areas and graze those small little areas over and over and over again, because they're just so scared to go out, are now building up the guts to actually travel much farther in a coral reef ecosystem. Therefore, they're not grazing the same areas, so now all this algae is popping up. So it actually was pretty significant. The fact that there are no sharks is affecting the reefs. So without sharks, we don't have reefs.
You know, we've lost about 90% of our sharks in the past probably 50 years or so. A lot of one of the biggest reasons for this has to do with shark finning. Not really in the United States as much, but in other countries, people eat sharks and shark fin soup, and because of that, we've begun to lose, a lot of them. Something really kind of funny to me, or not funny, but not funny. Something that's very sad to me is that most of the time when I talk to classrooms and students like you guys, one of the first questions that we get is always, don't sharks come and attack you? No, they don't. So sharks seem to have been demonized because of movies like Jaws. People are very afraid of sharks, but what people need to realize is that we are humans, but that does not mean that we're the most strong, most powerful animal on Earth. And there are animals that have the ability to kill us. That doesn't mean that they're going to. I've dove with sharks, and so has Eileen many times, and I'm sure Joe has as well. And most of the time, they're more scared of you than you are of them. And it's pretty amazing to be down there and interact with an animal that has the power to, kill you if it wanted to, but to just see it be, just to see it be in its environment and to be, doing whatever sharks do, it really makes you realize that sharks are not this big scary monster that we've made them. So just don't be afraid of sharks. I'm not saying go to the beach and I'm not saying go to the coral reefs and go poke them with a stick. Have respect for sharks, but have respect for them, but don't fear them because they don't deserve that.
And they're in essence part of the food chain. So the food chain doesn't work if you don't have the top predator. And the coral reefs here are evident of that. What's happening here is evident of that. So I hope I answered your question. We answered your question.
All right. Well, that's a great point. I work with another group called Sharks for Kids, and that's our main message. We're trying to push that message out there. And like you mentioned, diving with sharks is just an unbelievable experience. I was in the Bahamas recently with great hammerheads, so these massive sharks, much, much bigger and longer than I was, but they had no real interest in me at all other than, what are you up to? And they'd move along. So it was just an amazing experience. Got to spend several hours on the bottom with them. It was phenomenal. Okay, do you have another question for us, Mr. Ruffin's class?
Have you found any new animals since Aquarius has started, like any new species or any new animals, and if so, which ones?
I don't think that they've discovered new species. I know they're constantly looking for new species, but I don't think at Aquarius, I don't think that type of research has actually resulted from a study that happened at Aquarius. Aquarius has been in the same spot since 1993, so it is its own artificial coral reef. It's teeming with life. You have all kinds of different fish species, grouper, snapper, barracuda. I mean, you name it, we have them. But to have found a particular new species at Aquarius, I don't think so. That's not to say that new species aren't being discovered in the Florida Keys all the time, but not from research at Aquarius.
We may not have discovered a new species, but we have not discovered, but we have seen species that don't actually belong in Conch Reef. For example, when I went to Aquarius, I saw a lionfish. Lionfish are fish that belong in the Pacific. They're very beautiful. They have these really long spines, and they're actually very poisonous. So if you were to touch a lionfish, you would end up in the hospital. I know my dad got stung, and he was hospitalized for days, and it was very awful. But the reason that these lionfish are in our coral reefs now in the Atlantic, even though they're from the other side of the world, is because of the aquarium trade. People will put these beautiful fish in their aquariums so that they can look at them and enjoy them. But then they'll realize, oh, this fish is poisonous, and it's killing everything in my fish tank. So I'm going to take it out, and rather than kill it, I'm going to free it into the Atlantic Ocean where it doesn't belong. And then it ends up really destroying our the trophic levels. It destroys the balance of the ecosystem and makes us lose certain fish because we have more lionfish that are becoming like a top predator.
So that's the type of fish you didn't see here like 3-4 years ago, and now they're everywhere, unfortunately, and they're eating all our native fish. So
people in the Keys will actually fish them now and eat them, and they're apparently very good.
There's a lionfish cookbook now, so yeah. So
Anyway.
those types of species are being found, but we do have quite a few native species of fish as well, Goliath groupers, eagle rays.
We saw a whale shark the other day. Even a great white shark was seen near where Aquarius is. So we see all kinds of animals. We haven't really discovered a new one, but that's probably because Aquarius, it's been in the water for like 25 years, and maybe maybe if we were looking at microscopic creatures, we would discover new species, but nobody's studied that yet. Maybe one day you can.
Yeah, our job is really to facilitate missions, so to facilitate the research that comes to us. So we basically have people like your teachers, college professors, and things like that approach us and say, hey, I want to study this. So, we make it work. We make it happen for them. So that's kind of our role in this. Do we have any other questions?
We'll take a question from Mrs. Olson's class. Michael?
You were kind of talking about how, like, when...
Get closer to the mic. We can't hear you.
The mic is right here.
That's awesome.
So you were talking about how, like, if something happened at Aquarius that you know what to do, but you didn't really explain what like, the problem was or what you would do.
Okay. Well, luckily, we've actually never had a problem at Aquarius. I mean, things happen where things break and things like that, but none of which where we've actually had to evacuate the group that's in Aquarius. It's not to say that it won't happen. It is a highly pressurized environment, so if should a fire start, we do have a plan in place in order to evacuate the aquanauts in a safe manner. Remember, these guys are saturated, so in order for them to come up to the surface safely, they have to have undergone a 16-hour decompression. If there is an accident, like a fire, and they need to evacuate, we do have doors and things like that where they are able to leave Aquarius, but they'll have to go up to the surface. We'll have a support vessel up at the surface that will bring them back to our land base, where we have a recompression chamber here, or at the local hospital we'll have to put them in. So there's any number of accidents that could happen when you're underwater, but we've pretty much kind of planned for everything. We do have our protocols in place, and we all know what we need to do should that happen.
Luckily, we've never had an accident of that kind of caliber. We've never had to evacuate anybody. No. We really make sure to plan for a safe mission. For example, if there's a hurricane coming, we will reschedule a mission. We make sure to set up our aquanauts for success. Yes. So. Yeah.
All right, let's give one more question, Mr. Ruffin's class, and we'll sign off for this session.
Okay.
Are you? How you doing? Speak nice loud.
What do you guys eat there?
Great question. So we have some samples here. So I'll have Kathy. So basically, Aquarius is a very small pressurized environment. So we really don't have an oven where you can, cook something, or a place where you can fry things. Instead, we do have a microwave. We have a small refrigerator. Excuse me. But it's also a very humid environment. So things like milk and fruit tend to go bad rather quickly. So, mac and cheese that comes in the little cups is a popular favorite. Easy Mac, exactly. Peanut butter cookies, Reese's Pieces, M&Ms.
Pretty much anything that's packaged and processed.
Anything that's packaged and processed, unfortunately. So it doesn't really make for a very healthy diet. After a few days underwater, the aquanauts are begging us to please send a pizza down.
And we've done that. We have
done that. We've delivered pizzas down there. So, these are kind of the more common things that you see. If you've ever seen camping food, it's freeze-dried food, much like what the astronauts are eating. Here we have yummy beef stroganoff with noodles. Here we have some cut green beans. And these are mountain house foods that you can actually order on Amazon. You put some water in them, chili mac with beef, stick them in the microwave, and you're good to go. I've heard from the aquanauts that they're not very tasty. Unfortunately, they're kind of bland. So we have some hot sauce down there, and they just put hot sauce on everything. So you kind of get used to it when you're down there, and you just can't wait to get up to the surface so you can have a nice hot meal. That's for sure.
All right, very cool. Well, my class, I think I mentioned this in our last hangout, we connected with Mission 31. I think it was day 13, and they were talking about the food, and it was only 13 days in, and they were getting kind of tired of it. So I can see why they'd look forward to those little down. All right, well, to our classrooms joining and those who are watching the live feed, thank you so much. Mr. Ruffin's class, it was great to have your group joining us from Minnesota. And Kathy and Eileen, again, another awesome presentation. Again, we apologize that we are having difficulties getting a connection established with Aquarius, but we will work on fixing that. Maybe by our next session at 4:45, we'll have some better luck. But I'll let Kathy and Eileen say goodbye, and I'll turn on the mic so Mr. Ruffin's group can say goodbye as well.
All right, so thank you so much, guys, for connecting with us today. We're really sorry we couldn't get you to, go on your journey to Aquarius Reef Base, but we promise we will keep you on the first priority for the next time. But thank you so much. We hope that you learned something, and we hope that you guys will want to come live underwater someday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great Easter weekend. And we're connecting again for another session if anyone can stick around at 4:45. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.